Hello, hello. Welcome to the Eclipse Evolution podcast. I'm your hostess, Savannah Rose. Thank you so much for joining us today, for tuning in, whether video or audio. We're grateful to have you here. And I'm super grateful and excited to announce my special guest today, Gretchen Andrews, tuning in from Utah across the country. Gosh, y'all, I wish you could have seen her view. I'm so envious, but I'm so glad that she's taking time out of her day to share her craft, to share her mission. Message is something that I hold closely to my heart as a fellow artist. And Gretchen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And hello, everybody all over the world from Park City, Utah.
Yay! Amazing. So, Gretchen, artist. I know that's very much a title, but I feel like as artists, it's so much more about what's in our heart and sharing something and expressing something through a type of medium that is close to us. Can you tell us more about what is close to you, how you came upon this journey of sharing your art with the world?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important that you brought up that term of this artist. It sort of has like no meaning and a lot of meaning, and some people really struggle with using it to identify. When I decided to become an artist, and that's really what it was for me, is I was like, I'm going to be and become this thing. And yes, there's a set of skills and there's a fine art world, but more than anything, there's a lens. And for me, I was working in a traditional job, but I knew that I wanted to have a life's work, not a work life balance. And I think the distinction of feeling and really believing, I guess more than anything at that time, hoping that an artist is someone who is celebrated for being themselves. And
Mm.
that lens is something that we can bring to all types of work, but for me has also involved the traditional painting, drawing sort of aspects of that as well.
So well said. Oh my gosh, I got chills when you said that about just someone who's celebrated for being themselves because I think you're so right. I think there is almost, at least I've observed this and even experienced it myself. Like, I think there can be a tendency with that label of artist to have like a piece of imposter syndrome with it, I think is something I've observed where it's like, oh, if I'm not doing this type of cool art, is this who I am? But I think you're so right. I think it's about just someone who and is authentic in that expression. And I think you're so right. Like with that priority being not just the work life balance, but something that you're really making your life and making something that is, I would say, like close to your heart, but just cannot be divorced from your purpose either. I think that's so important.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like that.
Oh, I'm so curious because I know one of your highlighted pieces of work right now is the Facetune portraits. I think that's so curious and it's just so relevant when it comes down to this modern age where we have all these different apps and mediums and different things to tweak, not I mean tweak, but also like full blown change and transform what it is that we are taking, just like snapping a photo with our phone or even video. I've seen this happen. I'm curious, like, how your Facetune portrait series has come to life and, like, what motivated that series.
Yeah. So, just to speak briefly on what this series looks like is if you're familiar with the term Facetune, they're basically these filters that men use them. There's an app called Manly. There's an actual app called Facetune. Sometimes they're just filters on social media. Sometimes they're a filter on Zoom video conferencing called Touch Up My Appearance. They're sets of adjustments to our faces and bodies that are made to make us look more appealing or more beautiful. And they also homogenize us, compress us into a single look, and also have a lot of value judgments within them as we basically are all normalizing to this single international idea of what beauty is as a result. And so my work deals with the tension between how we actually look and how these apps change us to look and really expose what is normally a digital and invisible process and make it a messy and visible way of understanding these technologies. So this really came about for me because I was thinking about the literal shapes that we contort ourselves into, especially as women, but I think it's anybody anytime we're told that we should be different. And I was reading Women Who Run with Wolves, which
Mm,
I'm sure that many of your listeners know about. It's a very pivotal text around reconnecting with your inner self, reconnecting with nature, and trying to identify and ultimately shed expectations that don't serve you. And so I was thinking about this in my personal life. I was exploring these algorithms, I was exploring these different technologies. And so Facetune Portraits really became my way of saying that this is messy, that anytime we are told to be different than we are, to be more beautiful, to be younger, to be like a different race, a different gender, a different socioeconomic value, to live somewhere else, whatever it is, whether these expectations are from our family or ourselves or society or algorithms, it's messy to try and exist in that tension between who we are and who we're told to be.
So well said. Messy. That's such a good way to put it. That's so generous, I think, too. Yeah, gosh, you're so right. It makes me think back to because I think like when you have this like perpetual exposure to all these ways that you can change yourself, whether like you said, whether it's like through pressure maybe you receive internally in the family system or externally in that kind of like societal aspect, peer pressure, or even just becoming exposed to an app and being like, well, what can this do? And then like that kind of natural I say natural, but, like, that kind of natural urge to conform sometimes that which can go back to just our survival techniques. Because I think that that's something that I teach a lot of my clients is, like, this urge to wanna look like, be like, whatever, is something that we're almost wired to have. It's something that we have to kinda consciously overcome because back in the day, it was a means of survival. It was how we stayed safe in our tribe, and mated and passed on our DNA and weren't exiled and whatnot. So I think anyone who's maybe like struggling with these concepts to know that it's not your fault because like you said there's so many ways in which like we are exposed to that kind of pressure and I don't think is talked about enough about how messy it really can be.
Yeah, I really love that you brought up the survival instinct within this because these apps give us all the same face and the same body. And I've
Mhm.
been working with the Miss Universe contestants who, are literally from all over the world, literally like the most gorgeous women that exist. And yet these apps change them and give them the same features. Like Miss Jamaica gets the same body as Miss Philippines, gets the same body as Miss USA, as Miss Mexico, and these women should look different. We should look different from each other. And what I see is not just a desire to be beautiful, but as you named it so directly, is a desire to fit in and to be accepted by the algorithm as much as by our peers. And even though we're all ending up with the same face, that's safer to us. It's not about trying to be an individual or trying to be beautiful. It's
Mhm.
about being safe. And I want to take this moment to say there's no shaming in anyone here who uses these apps or who decides to get plastic surgery or has any of these things done. My work is really about opening up conversation about what drives us, having it come from a place of fun and empowerment and not a place of insecurity. And also
Mhm.
just to have us be investigating what is going on here, especially with younger women who are seeing faces and bodies all over the internet that literally don't exist. Like these bodies and these faces are
Yeah.
digitally constructed. So like it's hard enough celebrities and, beauty pageants with these impossible beauty standards, but even they're not good enough for these apps and the apps modify them and our expectations are just, wildly on literally unreal as a result.
You're so right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, gosh, one of the things that really touched me when your team reached out to me and proposed our session today or podcast today, my therapeutic brain kicked in just then. But it was so interesting because, yeah, gosh, like I think almost like the covert nature of these apps, where, like you said, like someone can be in person a 10 out of 10, but just the way that these apps are designed to just stay in motion almost and like you said like pleasing the algorithm it's wild how like you can take someone who's theoretically like a 10 out of 10 and there's still something to change and I know like with my own experience gosh like having been in the modeling industry since I was 13 like a baby like a little girl having pictures of myself airbrushed photoshopped since I was little I can totally I love how you say the word messy because it's been a huge journey for me, like in unwinding from that and like learning a sense of like peace and acceptance and even just like learning identity beyond what like can be quote fixed in an
Yeah.
image. And it's something that like I can tell it totally distorted my perception. And like to this day, I still have to be so mindful pictures that are taken of me because I instantly have that like conditioned what is wrong with this image and like how can I fix it even if there's literally nothing wrong and I'll go back and look at pictures of myself that I thought were not good 5-10 years ago and I'm like this is literally a perfect like what it's wild how much that conditioning is just so covert.
Yeah, and like you're saying, there's no end to it. Like, you can take a face-tuned image, a filtered image, and then
Yeah.
you can give it to the filter again, and it will keep going and keep going and keep going. It's never like, "Hey, you're good enough." It
Right.
never tells you that. It doesn't tell the Miss Universe contestants that. It doesn't tell the Kardashians that. It doesn't tell us that. And so it's this game that we can't win. And even when we know what's happening, or we have a like a cultural awareness or an education that this
Mhm.
happens, it still disrupts what we should expect. And in playing with these apps and doing them on my own body, one of the things I was really surprised to find is that when I saw the face-tuned version, I didn't love it, but then when I would go
Mhm.
back to the original image, I also didn't like it, and it r like, I had started with an image where I thought I looked great, and then all of a sudden, I'm not liking any of it.
Wow, that's such a good point. Yeah, I think you're so right. Like, I can totally understand that. It's actually kind of funny because I remember one time, I think this was, it had to be maybe 2 years ago now. I remember doing a psilocybin experience and like a session. Like I was undergoing it, I wasn't facilitating, and I remember that was the key takeaway. That was like the message, like that the mushrooms gave me was like, hey, like, "Stop using filters, like, you don't need these." And I'm like, "Dang, of all the, like, spiritual wisdom and insight that's available in the universe, it was stop using filters." And I confess, like, I'll still do them from time to time, like or if a photo is maybe, like, super dark, I will brighten it up or whatever. Like, I do feel like
Right.
those kind of things, like, to enhance the picture, I like to do, like, the quality, but as far as, like you said, you made such a good point, I wrote it down, like, gosh, I can't even read my own handwriting. I'm, like, scribbling and trying to pay attention. But, like, the homogeneous, like, blending, like, how we're developing this almost, like, globalized standard, which is crazy to me because like you said, just, like, when it comes down to, like, the Miss Universe contestants, like, we are from different parts of the world, like, we're not meant to look the same, and, like, when did that stop being celebrated?
Yeah, I mean, because 'cause there've always been beauty standards, but they haven't always been perpetuated internationally with such speed and
Mhm.
force as what we're seeing now. And I was just laughing about your psilocybin experience because I once did one where I just couldn't drink coffee afterwards, and again, it seems like of all the messages from the universe, like, it's like you drank too much coffee was a weird one, but like, I think some of these sort of small things that have, like, sort of, like, big, like, nervous system resets are really important, and, I think there is that, like, connection into just what we're like, not having to feel inadequate, really, right? Like, all of this is about, like aside from it changing our faces and our bodies, it's, like, one more thing to do with which we could be, like, connecting with another person or taking a moment of silence, like, it's
Yeah.
it's, like, just, like, another thing on the list, especially I think as women. I know that, like, men were increasingly seeing this too. There's an app called Manly, and there's so much talk now of, like, men getting, like, their jaws broken and remade for plastic
Mhm.
surgery because of the whole manosphere podcast world. It's very pervasive, and, I think, I mean, it's just really driven from insecurity, right? And, like,
Mhm.
that doesn't tend to get us to a good place when we do things.
Yeah, you're so right. I think, like, you make such a good point of, like, it's not the usage itself that is bad or whatever, but it's, like and anyone who does that is not bad either, but it's, like, the "Why are you doing this?" kind of thing, and it almost falls into, like, an addiction cycle in a way where it's, like, someone can drink just because they want, like, a glass of wine, they enjoy the artistry of winemaking and whatnot, or there's, like, the person who's like, "I'm drinking this because I'm sad, and I wanna change how I'm feeling." I think that, like, that intrinsic motivation piece is so important, and I know even with my clients sometimes, like, I'll have clients who are like, "I wanna get lip injections," or, "I want, like, this procedure," or whatever it is, and I'll be like, "Okay, well, like, why? Like, what how did you get to that, like, conclusion?" And they're like, "Oh, I just if it's like a I wanna invest in myself, I wanna, like, pop off, like, this is something I've been, like, saving for and have always wanted, and it's just, like, a way that I wanna treat myself," then I feel, like, more not, like, supportive necessarily because 'cause I'm always supportive, but I feel more like, "Okay, this feels safer to me." Like, this is something that they're, like they see, like, it's not fixing them, but something that's, like, exciting almost of, like, "Oh, this is something that, like, is, like, almost playful in a way." And then it's, like, the clients that, like, I really have to dig deep with where they're like, "This is gonna fix my life," or, like, "This is gonna get that person to like me," or, like, "This is gonna get me to like me." I'm like, "Whoa, that's dangerous," because that's when it's like the never ending kind of loop that we're stuck in.
Yeah, absolutely. There's sort of 2 things that really made me think of the one, like, the first is that I worked with some influencers when I first launched this series to I did their portraits and we went through this whole process together. One of the things that kept coming up is they're like, "Look, like I talk about travel, I talk about mental health, I talk about politics." They have followings and platforms that aren't entirely based on how they look. But said when they all told me like when I post pretty photos, when I FaceTime myself, I get more engagement, I get more likes, I get more followers, and then I have more of a platform to share what it is that I want to share. And so these
Mhm.
algorithms and these platforms have us caught in this cycle where we have to please the algorithm. We have to show it our pretty selves. And then by doing that, we get the opportunity to reach real people. But it's we're in a dance with the devil here. And
Yeah.
they all felt that pressure to do that in order to even reach these other things that they wanted to say, which I thought was just so interesting. And
Mhm.
then, like, specifically with the lip fillers, it comes from like, I've been thinking about this for quite a while, obviously. The lip fillers are famously more appealing or, more desirable from the front than they are from the side. There's this whole duck face thing because if you turn, you get a different thing. And I
Mm.
was thinking about this, and really what I believe is happening is we are prioritizing to be seen in 2 dimensions and from the front because we're prioritizing not our lived experience, not our body as it exists amongst other people in real life, but our bodies on flat screens in still images.
Whoa,
Yeah,
I
ready?
love
Here's more.
that.
And it
Mic
relates to
drop.
it relates to, ancient Egyptian art where if you, like, think about, even, like, the whole, like, walk like an Egyptian thing, the reason why the Egyptian bodies were contorted that way is because they were working with 2 dimensions, a flat surface, and when you look at a foot from the front, it looks less like a foot. So they decided that every part of the body should be presented from its most identifiable angle, and that's how
Mm.
they were able to get a sense of 3 dimensions within a flat surface. So, the arms are like this, the torso's to the side, the heads are to the side, and that's how they prioritized for the rock surfaces that they were carving into and creating from. And so we're just doing the same thing with our lip fillers, looking at, not our esophaguses and our tombs, but how do I look best as seen on a flat screen when I'm not moving?
Yeah. Wow. You have me shook with that observation. That's such a good way to put it. Gosh, you're so right. Like that, just fitting ourselves and like squishing ourselves into a literally whole other dimension and like less expansive one too. If we're like 3D, 4D, so on and so forth, like and that expansiveness and that vibration is higher when we are like literally compressing ourselves, bringing down that vibration to fit into that. That to me has me like I'm gonna have to journal about that. That has me a little messed up. So I love that. That's got me thinking so much. That's such a good way to put it. Gosh, I mean, I think like I say the energetics behind it because I'm such like a woo woo like frequency girly where that's something I really pay attention to. Where yeah, like the 2D, like that two dimension or second dimension. It's I mean, it's taking something away from us when we are like making ourselves like compress into that. I feel like that can't be good. That just can't be good.
Well, because I think so much about it, and, like, I know this is a huge part of your work, so I'd love to hear you talk more about this because, like, we have these bodies, and we have embodied experiences, and we do exist in this world where we can feel and taste and touch, but those are places where we can also feel pain and feel
Mhm.
desire and feel, like, a lack of fulfillment, and our bodies are such signals to us, and so many of these change we've prioritized how we look over how we feel, and yeah, I'd love to hear you sort of
Mm,
elaborate on what you've been seeing that, especially, like, if it's, like, maybe evolved, like, personally and also with your clients or, not
yeah.
specific clients, but, share the things you're hearing.
For sure. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, you make me think of one thing in particular, like where like the feeling versus like how we feel versus how we look. And to me in particular, I think I see this a lot with acne. And I think gosh, cuz one of the beautiful things that these apps can do is airbrush or like spot remove or whatever it is, which I think from time to time can be good. But what I see and I have even experienced in myself and I have had to learn how to embody is like, if this is something that is like perpetual, of course, we all get breakouts from time to time, like hormones and like maybe we didn't wash off our makeup one night or whatever it is. But if it's something that's like, consistently showing up for us in our body, to me, like you said, that's a signal. Like that's a signal from our body of like something is not balanced, like something's not okay inside, whether it's like nutrition or stress, I think is one of the biggest ones. And it's so interesting because I've seen such a huge parallel in my career and even experienced myself that a lot of times acne will clear up post like trauma work, like trauma recovery, when the body is finally feeling safe and that nervous system is finally able to come down, like the cortisol is able to come down, the acne goes away, which I think is so interesting. And gosh, even in my own journey with that, like healing sexual trauma specifically through ketamine treatments, which I'm trained in, but like part of my training was like going through the treatments myself. My whole body changed because due to that sexual trauma, I feel like my body was like suppressing its natural form because I didn't want to take up more space. Like I didn't want to be seen. That wasn't safe, my body was thinking. But when I was able to heal that trauma, I feel like that's when I really stepped into my womanhood and got these things over here. I love them. They're great. But then also like my cycle is regulated and like my skin cleared up. And I was like, oh, wow, like that wasn't ever anything I needed to fix. That was really something I needed to heal. And now,
Mm.
like, I feel like I'm my best self. Physically feel my best. And I think of a result of that, look my best because it really is a result of that inner work. And I think if we're just constantly like, I need to fix this, I need to airbrush that, I need to enhance this or whatever it is, we're never really addressing the truly loving thing that we need within ourselves, and which is to give ourselves attention and care.
Yeah, I love that you just said that it's something to heal, not something to fix. And I completely agree with you. There's our bodies are constantly sending us messages and they're way smarter than we are. It's just like they're always trying to help us. Like they want to be healthy and thriving and surviving and all of that. So thank you for sharing that personal story and the way that it relates to your idea of embodied knowledge, experience, healing, because we can't just like keep hiding behind these things or we can. We
Mhm.
can until, we sort of can. It sort of hits the
Yeah.
wall with us. And like I'm personally a huge fan of somatic work and I think especially for women like us and maybe a lot of your listeners of all genders, that when we're smart and we're used to being able to intellectualize different forms of therapy that don't allow us to sink into our body, we can almost navigate around, or it takes a lot more time when we have to
Mhm.
go through language and we have to go through all of these filters and just some of these other ways to sort of cut through like, how am I feeling? What is my body trying to tell me? And, it's not any easier to listen to ourselves when we think that, we need to have a different body to begin with to even have that conversation.
Oh yeah, you're so right. Like the bypassing of like how these tools can sometimes be like used as like a way to bypass what's really going on. It also reminds me a little bit like about because I'm in a beautiful, wonderful, healthy, loving relationship now, and I'm so grateful for my partner. But in the past, I was in like a very unhealthy, toxic relationship, and I remember, and this I did that mushroom experience like after that had ended. But I remember that when I was using these apps the most to transform myself and my ex and like everything I could. It was such a hand in hand relationship to just like how unhealthy I was at that time too. It was like I didn't want to accept my reality and what was going on, but I can make the pictures really pretty. And I could like almost like convince myself that that was the life that I was living and like that was the partner that I had. I didn't have to like this might be a little I don't know graphic, but like, I didn't have to like 'cause he had some issues with, like, addiction, I didn't have to, like, brighten his eyes because they were bloodshot, like, because in the photo, I'd be like, "Well, I can in the photo, make him not look like he's, like, under the influence or something," and it was like, I almost, like, was in love with that person that I created and was so disconnected from the reality and disconnected from my body and, like, "Girl, get the hell out of here." So it was
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
it just
laughing at
is
you,
the
it's just, like,
child
it's such
yeah, it was
a
used to bypass, it was used to override a lot, but now it's like with my partner nowadays, like, I can tell, like, I don't feel this need to change anything, but also, like, I feel pretty in this relationship because of my own inner work, but because, like, there is so much love there, they say, like, "A woman in love glows." That's so real, like, because the nervous system is safe, and that's something that, like, I think going back to, yeah, it's not anything that you need to fix, it's what you need to heal, and I think that sometimes when we are stuck in that trap of, like, pleasing the 2D world, we are, like, abandoning the rest of our lives.
Yeah, I mean, I have this, sort of strange experience that, like, I think is related to this where, like, I was in a relationship for a long time, married, like, 20 years, like, went to prom, married for 10 years, and all in all, like, like, relatively good, but when I got divorced, I got my breasts grew like crazy to the
Yeah.
point where, like, I, like, wonder if my ex, like, thinks I got a boob job, and I
Mhm.
don't know, like, I was like, "Oh, maybe my eating habits have changed."
Mm.
I think there was a part of me that was stuck as a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
And it not his fault, not, like, my fault, but as soon as I was in a different context, like, I
Mhm.
became significantly more womanly, and it's just like,
Yeah.
where did that come from? I think
Mhm.
it's related.
Yeah, I relate to that, yeah, I know, like, definitely, like, my healing work, but yeah, these things, I'm like I love them so much, and I'm like, I'm so proud of them
Yeah,
because to me, I'm like, I think they came almost as like a gift and like a rite of passage of like my womanhood. And I think part of that was like in accepting myself, loving myself, protecting myself, and then being in a relationship with a partner who honored that. And then my body's like, okay, I feel safe and I'm just gonna like keep getting better. And I'm like, dang, because yeah, I can relate to everything you just said
yeah,
because
same, yeah. Like, we
same
we gets
thing,
across at
same exact
37.
thing. That's so
I did.
funny.
But
That's
yeah,
so
like, I think
wild.
all this,
One
like
thing I wanted to touch upon too, just shifting gears a little bit that like I think I would just love your thoughts on is like not just like the role of AI and like how that's changing like how we are perceiving beauty, how beauty standards are becoming, whatnot. But also in like just the makeup world in general. I'd love your thoughts on this too, because I'm a Barbie girl. I love makeup. It's so fun for me. But my makeup routine has not changed in years. Like I feel like I found what I like and what works for my face. And I don't really do anything differently. That's just me. But I've found like I'll see things show up for me like my algorithm's like, "You're a 20-something-year-old woman, you should watch this." And I'm like, "Okay."
Yep.
Where I'll see like all these makeup trends showing up. And it's not something that like I have fully been able to understand because I'm like, how can you really do anything different? I feel like we have figured out makeup and have solved makeup. I'm like, how are there new things that are showing up on like how to create these trends? I'm just so curious like what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole sort of feedback loop with AI and fashion and beauty. Like, we make these modifications digitally, and then we start to get plastic surgeries and modify them. Really, we're being as we were talking about before, like, with the lip fillers and the screen, like, we're being informed very much by what is successful within certain media contexts, and it's also why I bring up the jaw for the manosphere men
Mhm.
is because this has become this not just, like, a beauty standard, but a symbol of masculinity, a symbol of power, a symbol of this, like,
Mm,
somewhat lost idea or clinging to idea of what it means to be a man,
mm,
and it's something for people to hold on to and something that I feel like will solve their various problems, and their idols have it, and it's
mhm.
like where plastic surgery was with women maybe 30 years ago. I think now women are much more open about plastic surgery. There's less shame in it, whereas
Yeah.
with men, I don't think these men are talking about it in the way that that sort of cultural veil of shame around this stuff. I think with women, anytime there's a removal of shame, I'm 100% for it.
Mhm.
But there's less like hiding of it. I think because it's been a larger part of like the women's media culture for a while than it has like this whole manosphere. But I think like the most important thing in this is that feedback loop. Like we are. I like to say that we're almost like meeting the robots halfway. Sometimes when people get a lot of modifications done, whether it's like virtual or like plastic surgeries that are informed by these virtual modifications, to me, they almost look like they're AI generated images that are just failing to look real. And like
Mm,
we're making ourselves look more and more like AI people. And
mm,
AI people were trained on data sets where no one takes a bunch of photos when they first wake up in the morning or when they've just had a big cry or when they're, like, really hangry, like, these are not part of what's informed AI about what it means to be human.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah, that's such a good I laugh because, like, I think back to these photos that I took, I thought they were good photos. I sent them to my mom and she was like, "Are you sick?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just tired." I'm like, "Mom." But it's so funny. But you're right. Like I thought it was a good photo. I think it was the best I could have done at that moment in time. But I was also super tired. But that's so funny. Yeah, it was such a good point. What I found, like with the jawline specifically, how like jawline surgeries are trending so much with women lately. And I
Really?
think that blows my mind. It blows my mind because, well, first of all, it's expensive. Like, people will be like, "Oh, this cost me like okay." I'm like, "Girl, what? I didn't pay off my student loans. I'm not trying to, like,
Yeah,
buy a new face." But to me, it's almost I don't really know the word for it, but I feel like it's almost and of course, like, however someone presents is their choice, but I feel like the jawline, it is, like you said, associated with masculinity, not necessarily that, like, men who do not have a sharp jawline aren't masculine, but I feel like the rounder face is almost like a female birthright. How we're literally designed. We're designed to have, like, softness and curves, and our face is part of that, and it's so intriguing to me, like, how people are shaping their jawline, like women specifically. And to me, it almost makes me kind of sad because I'm like, I feel like it's not celebrating like femininity. It's not celebrating our womanly softness. And it's just so interesting how that specifically became a
yeah.
trend because it is something that is like, I mean, I hate to say like a guy thing because, like, again, it's not exclusive, but I just have found that to be so interesting because it is not like a natural thing. Like, if someone wants to change their nose, I can understand, like, that's a certain type of aesthetic that's not really gendered at all, but, like, the jawline to me, I've just found that to be so curious.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that more. I wonder because I know with men, it's similar to the lip fillers with women. It has to do with, like, being seen on a screen, often
Mhm.
flat, but, like, like, literally, like, podcast angle, and so maybe
Mhm.
there is something about for all genders and all faces, what that jawline how that pops in a
Mhm.
certain media context. And but yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know that, so I'm gonna have to look into
Mhm.
the jaw surgeries.
That makes sense. I think you're so I think you're right. I think it is, like, part of that 2D kind of mentality. Because I know even with myself, I'll, like, see myself I mean, I see myself on screen all the time, and I'll be like, "Dang, do I have a double chin?" I'm like, "What's going on? I exercise all the time."
From
But I'm
angle
like,
everybody
"No,
does.
this is it's literally just my face," and it's yeah, it's like that conditioning piece. Because like and even so, like, I don't mind having, like, a soft round face because I am healthy, and I feel healthy, and that's, like, the thing that I've really had to learn. And even with my clients, like, because I do some like eating disorder recovery, because having been in the modeling career, like that will touch you in some way. Like, I think people are very intentional about it, but it's gonna show up for you. Like, I remember being 16, 17 years old, and no matter how I looked, this one incessant unhealthy agent that I had was just drop 5, no matter what. And gosh, like, it was just so damaging at that time for me. And because when you're a 17-year-old, you don't know how to, nor really should you, like, lose weight in a healthy way. So she's like, well, I guess I just won't eat. And it was just so not good. But with my clients and even with myself, I've had to learn, like, how to teach your brain, like, what healthy feels like, and like to
Yeah.
then grow a whole other different level of self-acceptance, and then eventually, I think, appreciation for the aesthetic match. Because and I think it really does go hand in hand, though, like with the healthy relationship piece, and we have a natural glow up with that. It's like when we really are healthy and in that good relationship with ourselves, how we will look our best, but it's our best. It's not like the merged with the society best, it's our best, and how, like,
It's not AI's idea of what's best.
right. It's so curious, like, how all that stuff is shaping out. I'm wondering, like, what are your, like, maybe projections for the future, like, with these kinda concepts? Like, what are you hoping to see with these types of trends and how people are showing up?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this isn't something I'm hoping for, but I think increasingly we're going to all have the same face. And now we've got Ozempic, like, mixed into that, like, same face,
Mhm.
same body. And
Yeah.
it's fashion, like, ultimately beauty is fashion. And at some point, this has to flip back to being like, hey, like, actually, what we value is uniqueness. Scarcity always has more value. And I think we're in a weird cultural moment where we're all afraid of that. but I think ultimately, like, I wanna be the lady at the nursing home who, like, doesn't have that face, and I think that's gonna be popping.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you're right. I think we have leaders in our society that are treasures when it comes down to aging gracefully. Like I think Pam Anderson is she's
Yes, she
such
speaks
a
volumes.
trending person right now. Yeah, and it's well deserved because I think she in her early career was this depiction of like blonde bombshell implants, like the works, which I like love that for that stage of her life. But I also feel like it's been so cool to see her evolution of like literally saying like it would be weird if I was like wearing makeup right now. Like it would be weird if I was like trying to act like I'm not. And I just think that that radical self-love is so cool. But people have been doing that for ages too. I think Alicia Keys is another like amazing example. Like someone who's as far as I know, like has never really worn makeup in the industry of being an entertainer. I just think that's like so cool of just like that. I know that I'm enough. I'm showing up in this way. And I think that almost gives people like permission to continue to do that.
And yeah, I think that's it, like, it's yeah, like, to permission to be yourself, to feel secure in who you are, and then, as you're saying with makeup, sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's out of, like, a place of,
Yeah.
like, empowerment and fun and like, if you're having a good time, great, like, go for it.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. For sure, yeah, because I definitely can embrace the whole spectrum, like, this is the first time I've worn makeup, I think, in a week, or maybe yeah, something like that. Because I try to not do it every day. Because I work from home, so, like, if I'm not gonna be on screen, I'm like, "What's the point?" But even then, like, I'll still make some content, like, makeup free and whatnot, but and then on the other end of the spectrum, like, I love to cosplay, so, like, I love to, like, do heavy transformations because it's just fun. I like to dress up. I'm a little girl at heart. I really am.
And that is where I've seen some of the really interesting uses of these apps is like in the trans
Mhm.
community or people who are
Yeah.
investigating gender and playing with that. Like I think that there is, like I think these are edge cases though. Like,
Mhm.
it's but it is like it is an interesting democratization, whereas before you had to be a famous model, you had to have someone else photoshopping and airbrushing you, and now, like,
Mhm.
anybody can do this, so it's almost become an arms race as well for, like, the
Mhm.
celebrities and the fashion people who do this, it's like, when anybody can look like Kim Kardashian within, like, a couple clicks, it's like, what is Kim Kardashian gonna do?
That's such a good point. Yeah, it makes me think of Megan Fox, because I feel like growing up, she was this like she was our Pam Anderson in some ways, like my generation. She was this like symbol of beauty and almost like a standard. And early in her career, like she didn't have any work done or very, very minimal work. And I remember her face just being like of an angel. And now it's like it's been so interesting to see her transformation and how she's still Megan Fox, but it's so interesting to hear the conversation around like how we miss the like 2013 Megan and how like that was her prime. And if you see her in interviews, she has never felt that way. And like she's never felt like pretty enough. And I'm like, girl, like I know people who would have murdered to look like you, like literally murdered. But it's just so interesting. Like no one is immune to these pressures. And like even if you have billions of fans and like people who are trying to look like you, how like again if that place inside is not nourished, how it can still like it doesn't discriminate, like it can show up for anyone. But I think from what I've heard, I think she's like gotten to a better place with herself, and I love that for her because I think she glows most when she's happiest, and that's all I want to see for anyone.
I know it's like you just said it, but I'm gonna say it again, and it's like I know it sounds like cheesy, but like I think happiness is like the most attractive thing in the world,
Yeah.
and the photos in which like people look happy, they always look better, and that's
Hmm.
just like some of these apps do have a feature where you can like it'll make you smile, but it is so creepy. Like it is
Yeah.
not.
It is creepy, right? I know, gosh, it's giving I don't know, but it's yeah, it's giving like a horror movie almost in a way, but yeah,
Yes.
it's so interesting how this I don't know, like, infatuation with the external, there's so much I liked how you use the word investigation, like, there's so much investigation that can be available to us and how, like, that's, I think, where we really can feel the fruits of our labor the most. And like you said, like the happiest people, they are like the most attractive because I think they really are magnetic. I really think it is an energetic thing. Kind of like that whatever you're putting out you get back. Like if you're putting out that you're happy, it's going to be reflected back to you, and I think people will perceive like not just the eyeball aesthetics, but the energetic piece of like this is something that like I want to lean into.
Absolutely.
Well, I've just been obsessed with this conversation today. I feel like it's just flown by. I'm curious, did you have any other thoughts before, guys? I know I kind of like took us in all different directions, but did you have any other thoughts or like burning desires to share anything else with our listeners today?
I just think that, like, this can be a fun investigation, and again, there's no
Mhm.
shame in this, it's just, like, thinking about, those motivations and really connecting them to these deeper things of what is it that we wanna do in this world? How is it that we want to feel? And I'm loving being able to be part of that conversation outside of the art world and more culturally, so just thank you for
Oh.
giving me the opportunity to connect with your community today.
Thank you. Absolutely. Oh, it's been my pleasure, Gretchen, for sure. And so, where can folks find you to see more of your series, to see more and hear more of your thoughts? Where can they track you down?
Yeah, absolutely. So my Instagram at Gretchen Andrew is very active with a lot of content and videos that cross both how I make these works and then trying to start broader cultural conversations around, like I said, the lip filler and the ancient Egypt connection, really becoming a place where people can connect and sort of ask these questions for themselves. And then if you do go to my website, gretchenandrew.com, do sign up for my email list because I've got fancy art parties all over the world all of the time, and I'd love to invite you guys coming up in London and Paris and Tokyo, so do stay in touch.
Amazing. Look at you. I love that. You're such a thought leader, culture creator. That's so exciting. Yeah. And I will drop all of these links in the description for y'all so you can touch base with her and follow her journey. And Gretchen, thank you so much for spending the time with me today. I love this conversation. And I know that folks who have tuned in have been nourished by it and can't wait to see more of what you do.
Thank you so much for having me, Savannah, and, like, thank you for doing all of this work and, connecting all of us together through it.
Thank you. My pleasure. And for those of y'all who tuned in today, thank you so much. This is Eclipse Evolution. Make sure to, again, check out Gretchen. Feel free to subscribe as well to stay in touch with future conversations. And with that, I wish you all well and bye for now.
Bye.